I am so excited to have another episode of A Superwoman Handbook. And today we continue our conversation about childhood trauma. And we do it in another unique way because childhood trauma comes in so many different colors and shapes and sizes, y'all. And today we have Dr. Kristen Williamson, and she is going to share with us from another angle. We talk a lot about neurodivergent, and I know that's a word we've had to look up and Google, and I think we've all added it to our repertoire. But how does that apply to childhood trauma? She is going to let us know today. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, weirdly excited to talk about trauma. I love kind of giggling about it because if you don't laugh, it just ends up weird.
But when we
And
talk about it, we take away the power.
we absolutely take away the power that it has been given for so long. And this is very connected to me because I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD or autism until I was 39. So I had a whole life lived feeling like an alien wearing the camouflage of a human. And when you grow up feeling like an alien, there's going to be some trauma that gets added in. Although for me, I didn't even realize it was trauma. I think for a lot of people, when traumatic things happen, they don't realize it's trauma until you are sharing it at a story later on or at a party, sharing your story at a party later on in life. And people just kind of look at you with their eyes big and blinking. They're like, no, that's not normal.
Until you're on the other side, looking back at yourself, going, who was that person?
Yes.
Because that wasn't me.
That's just with childhood trauma, with neurodivergence. And it's funny enough, I'm going to change that label from neurodivergent to neurospicy
I love
because
that.
I fully believe we have the spice of life, whether it is a pungent and potent spice or not, it's there. And not everybody enjoys the spice, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Doesn't mean it doesn't enhance the flavoring. So
So
with
true. And
neurospicy,
accepting it. That's what I love about kind of your story. Is it how you kind of came to shape it and accept it? And
I have learned it's a lot better to embrace my brain versus fighting against it. I had fought against it for so long, and it made life a lot harder than it needed to be. So much fun.
so, what have you learned in your personal and professional journey about the spicy? What have you learned? Like the good and the bad? What have you?
My gosh, the gendered nuances that come with being on the spectrum. I am a licensed professional counselor in my day-to-day life, and I work with adults now, and I work online probably because I'm neurospicy and having the ability to make eye contact is not the easiest thing. So working virtually makes it to where it looks like we're looking at each other in the eye, but I'm looking at a computer screen. So it's
Mhm.
way easier.
Yep.
But I'm having a lot of moms come in and they come to me after their kids have been diagnosed and they're thinking, wait, but I do that, but I do that, but no, that can't be. I do that. And so they are leaning in with curiosity for them because they're seeing with their kids. And I think it's way more normalized now for kids to come in and get a diagnosis without shame.
Hmm.
Definitely without shame. I think it's still kind of there.
Yes. Let's unpack that right there because I I know like when I was younger and I was in school and the kids had to go to the office at lunch to take their Ritalin or their pills. It was what did your mama drop you downstairs? Did she give you Pepsi Cola in your water bottle? Like
Right?
there was shame around that.
There was so much shame, and then think about from the parent's point of view, what did I
Mhm.
do to get my kid who won't
Mhm.
stop talking, who continuously gets in trouble at school, who doesn't turn in their homework? They're so lazy, they're so
Mhm.
rude, they're so A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Mhm.
And so the kids are getting this message of I'm continuously messing up, even when I feel like I'm doing all the right things.
Yeah, and probably maybe unintentionally punished by the parents because they're not meeting the goal, but they're like, I see the goal. I want to touch it, but I can't.
Unintentionally punished by their parents, by the school administrators,
Mhm.
from their friends or their peer groups or their friends' parents. And they just get micro cuts across their upbringing.
Such a good way to put it,
And
microcut.
with girls, we learned to mask almost from the womb, from
Mhm.
birth. I would say more for the American culture. We are taught to do that. And okay, well, girls are, for me specifically growing up, like girls are polite and they sit and smile and they don't necessarily get into big amounts of trouble in the same way
Mhm.
that boys do, or the boys will be boys, or this, and girls can't do that, or this, or this, or that's not a lady. And you just learn to suppress your responses. You learn to suppress if my weird stems of like tapping my fingers together or fidgeting and moving. And I went through my report cards that my mom kept and I got to read. And the teacher was like, she's very chatty. She's very she needs to sit at the end of the room by herself. She's going to talk to everybody. That was, in fact, me.
Yeah, I was like, "You can put me in the corner, I'll talk to the wall, like, it's fine."
I will make friends with the ants that are walking by. And it's always the chattiness or the never listening or
So what
needing to be doing something.
So you talk about kind of the micro cuts. So let's say, there's that child who constantly gets in trouble, who constantly can't meet expectation, wants to, but just can't because they're neurodivergent. And so now they've just accepted, I'm a failure. I just can't. What does that teenage life look like? What does that early adulthood life look like for that child if they're not identified, if we're not able to kind of step in and help to correct those micro cuts?
Well, I think about it. We are living in almost a value based society. And if they are given that message of you are too difficult or lazy or too sensitive,
Mhm.
you have just too big of feelings, you're too much, they are taking those micro cuts and just dimming themselves down, just growing up feeling constantly invalidated. And you grow up with that message of I'm too much or I'm not enough. And so that's where the people pleasing comes in.
Mhm.
That's where the trying either overly hard or not trying at all. And the I'm going to fail anyway.
You're right, it's one or the other.
It's that pendulum and it swings very heavy in both directions. And it's, I think humans as general, we experience, especially in this time of life, the emotional exhaustion
Mhm.
just of one unprecedented event to the next. And as a millennial living through, this is a disaster. Here's another disaster. It's tiring.
I know we were talking about that over the weekend. I got to go away to film some content that we're gonna be using this winter, and it didn't occur to me that my generation was the last one that we weren't at war. The generation after me has lived their entire life at war.
Oh my gosh.
And even saying it now, like, my arm hairs are, like, standing up, and it's like I was, far grown, before, 9/11 happened, and so it was very blissful before that. I mean, we'd had, we had a good little break there between,
Yeah.
Desert Storm and then when, 9/11 happened, that was a blissful so that's a very different time. So it really helped to refocus my mind that to be a little kinder
Mm,
to the current generation that yes, there are 85 things going on that could be said about, but that is one thing that is just undeniable fact that does create a different upbringing that my generation didn't have. And
yes,
so it was very
absolutely.
interesting to kind of take that perspective. And so for you now to mention it again kind of highlights it in my mind. And so from your perspective, how could that impact? So let's say someone, is already kind of feeling not enough. They're already kind of feeling an alien in their body. And now they're living in a world that's at war, that is unrest, that is
Mhm.
not stable. How does that kind of impact them? And kind of what can we do if we are an adult, a caregiver, just a general human around them? Kind of what can we do to help calm that?
I love that question. And I see it almost through the lens of different ages. I know I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they are very much desensitized to a lot of the things that I
Mhm.
was not desensitized to
Yep.
growing up. And so meeting their needs is very different than meeting someone's needs who are in their 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s or 70s
Very
and
true.
so on. But I think exactly as what you were just mentioning, coming in with kind of a kindness. And I may actually add on to that. Meeting your thoughts or their actions or reactions with curiosity.
Mhm.
Curiosity as opposed to judgment. And I
I like
actually,
that.
a glorious story that I wish I didn't have a story about that I can share is my 15-year-old is on the spectrum. He was diagnosed at 8. And so I got to be a young mom learning what spectrum was. And now at 15, he was having a really hard time showering. Not even a hard time showering, a hard time washing the top part of his hair. And I was just perpetually annoyed that this kid would have clean back of his hair, but the top part was just, I'm like, what did I not teach you to shower right? Do we need to watch YouTube videos? Do I need to stand and watch you in your in like bathing suit to this is what you're doing? And finally I paused and I'm like, what could be causing this? Is he just a stinky boy? Is he what? And I asked him, or I started asking, and this is kind of the you're too close to the problem to see it because I'm like, I'm a therapist. Why did I not think to ask him these things? But then I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to shame myself. I asked now. And so coming and asking, what's going on? We're missing the top part of our head. And it turned out it was actually a sensory issue. He really struggled with water touching his face. So he would avoid getting the top part of his head wet. As just, it really sent him into sensory overwhelm.
Yeah. I love that curiosity over judgment.
Yeah. And it took me far too long of sitting in the judgment before I hit
Yeah.
that moment of curiosity. But now coming in with the, you
Yeah.
know what? On surface level, it's going
Mhm.
to look like this, but it might be something else.
And we judge because we're coming at it from our life experience,
Yep.
from our perspective. And of course, everyone's exactly like us and will do
Yes.
things exactly like us. So if they're not, they are wrong. They are, wow, I love how you put that because, it's so funny. I've had those same experiences, but it didn't really click. And I've been really profound. Like I would fuss at my daughter for loading the dishwasher a different way or something. And she goes, well, I did it this way. I'm like, that's brilliant. Okay. But I just thought, oh, she's a genius. Of course she is. I never thought of it like, okay, I should be more curious about things. And I love how you kind of use that example. Then my admin just kind of texted back. You get two neurodivergent people on a podcast together and we diverge. We were talking about moms coming on to meet with you. And then I took us down a complete side path about kids. And then now we're bathing. So
We chase the squirrels when we see them.
I know. So my WhatsApp popped up and it said, neurodivergent, get back on the path. You were talking about moms getting diagnosed.
You know what? But with moms getting diagnosed, this is where we lean in with curiosity versus shame and
Exactly,
judgment.
exactly, and we own it now versus like, "Oh, let's edit this out. This is so terrible." No, this is exactly how conversations happen.
And I think that's what makes it authentic is that, oh, yeah, we are
I
chasing
love it, I
all the
love it.
pathways. And it's,
Exactly, and it's absolutely beautiful.
oh my gosh, with moms getting diagnosed, I love, love, love seeing those light bulbs just get lit up. And then they are rewriting their entire upbringing. And they are rewriting it from the words of,
Yes,
I was not enough to my brain was different.
and I bet that contributes a lot to breaking the cycles
It
of
does.
shame and pain and all those micro cuts and what.
It allows them to see what may have been traumatic for them growing up was still traumatic, but they are no longer seeing themselves as the problem. And my mantra that I have been using for long enough is that just because we're different doesn't mean we're less.
Yes, absolutely. So forgiveness, when forgiveness comes on the scene, that's a whole different ball game than blame running around. And so I can see, no matter how many conversations I've had on this podcast, I always walk away with a huge epiphany moment. And I could see how if I blamed myself for something, I would 100% repeat that cycle until I forgave myself for it.
My gosh,
It's
yeah.
just how we're wired.
It's it's the idea for me, the leaning into how my brain is versus
Yep.
fighting against it. Because when you fight against it, for me, with being autistic, I have a lot of sensory overwhelm with noise and
Mhm.
with visual chaos.
Yep.
So when my kitchen counters are filled with all sorts of things. I get very overwhelmed, and that overwhelm can turn into fussiness, can be
Mhm.
snappy, can be quiet. And for a long time, it was just deal with it, just accept it. Now I'm like, I'm just going to clean up the counter. I know
Mhm.
this bothers me.
Mhm.
Going into groups of people, my friends will make fun of me in the nicest way possible. They know I've got a 3 hour limit. My
Mhm.
internal clock kicks in at the 3 hour. It says, we are done peopling, and I will make the exit where I don't talk to anybody. I am just gone. You will hear from me the next day. And it
I
doesn't
love
mean
that
that
you
I
bring
don't
that
have a
up,
friend.
like the oversensitized. Because I think we give children, like 2-year-olds, we give 2-year-olds permission to be oversensitized, but we don't give ourselves as adults permission to be oversensitized. So I'm
I don't
so
even
glad you
know
bring
that
that
we
up.
give our children as much permission, maybe more now, but for back then, I remember being a mom with littles and now knowing my kiddos on the spectrum, getting that overwhelm in the
Mhm.
store. Because I get overwhelmed in the grocery store,
Mhm. Yep.
especially in big box stores like Costco or Sam's when the ceilings are ridiculously tall.
Mhm.
My eyes take it all in. My kid would get so overwhelmed, and I would then feel so shame ridden. Like, I can't believe I'm that mom who can't keep her kid from screaming in the store.
Mhm.
And so we have the mom guilt. We have that shame. We have that, oh, other people are looking at us. And again, leaning in with judgment versus
Mhm.
curiosity.
Yep. I love that you bring that up because that is exactly how it wasn't until COVID that I realized how, because I was just so in it. I was so used to it. I just would grin and bear it. And this is life. I didn't know any different. And it wasn't until we're talking about trauma, being on the other side of it, once I had detoxed and I was on the other side of it, I looked back and I said, "Who is that person? And how did I ever do that?" I can't I don't know that I have gone in a store since COVID. And thank goodness it has been normalized and not divaized, if that's a word, to have everything delivered to your house because I can't do it. I have to just like if I do have to get something because I want to feel it or I want to see the size, something like that, I will order 4 on Amazon. And just like I'll order 4 on Amazon and then I'll just, just return what I don't need. But it's so, and I would, if being honest, because we don't like to have it honest and raw on the podcast, I would look at those moms and be like, girl, quit feeding them sugar. Get your
Mhm.
act together. Like that is versus being curious. Why is this happening and how can I be helpful? And so I'm so glad that you bring that up because unless we have walked the walk or we've seen it from our eyes, we approach it with judgment and not curiosity.
With COVID, I actually really like what you said. I used COVID as a weird silver lining. Like one of the weird silver linings to COVID is because the world shut down, we went online.
Mm-hmm.
We went out and we shared our stories and we started normalizing a dirty house.
Mm-hmm.
We started normalizing dishes in the sink, being overwhelmed, having a hard time. And I think that is what helped build these pathways for people to understand that their brain might be on the spectrum for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
my females because testing or assessments, they weren't created for women, for people of color. So it was only for like white, affluent males of color or of color, of
Mm-hmm.
white, Caucasian males of affluence. My words are all getting jumbled today. So
Because we're all over the place. Yeah.
yep, we are all over the place. And with the assessments, people get missed. And so now they are coming in and it's the autism epidemic, quote unquote. More people are getting diagnosed. That's true, but they already had it. They just now get to see that their brains
They've
are
had the
in part
tools
of
to
this really cool
identify
group.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not just feeling something's wrong. I'm an alien just being here studying people.
So would you say, yes, we have the tools? And I kind of look back at medicine, it's like, well, everyone's suddenly dying of polio. Why we got polio? Well, we could, and then everyone's now miraculously not dying of polio. Well, when you know better, you do better. You gotta like, okay, people, like it's not that hard. And so Would you say that now post-COVID, would you say more people are truly kind of being diagnosed, and would you say that we're getting more tools, or what's been your take being in the being, I don't wanna say in the industry, but kind of what is just someone who's been on that side of things?
I think more people are getting diagnosed. Actually, there's a lot of people who are coming in with a self-diagnosis, and I don't mind that.
Mhm.
For insurance, they don't pay for autism testing, or they don't cover autism testing really as an adult.
Mhm.
They're like, "Oh, you've made it this far in life. You're good. You don't need it."
You
ADHD,
survived.
totally different, because ADHD, there's medicine for it. Autism, there's not a pill that can make me less autistic.
I didn't know that.
I'm
Okay.
just that weird, quirky girl who's gonna
You're
be
just
weird and
spicy.
quirky. And I love when people learn about themselves so they can come in and say, you know what? I have a really hard time in grocery stores. I'm gonna get groceries delivered. That gives me more bandwidth to do other things. I have a hard time with certain textures. I'm not gonna eat this. I'm not gonna force myself to do it because I've now learned that my brain's a little different, and that's not a bad thing.
Love this conversation. It has not only brought clarity to me, but I hope that it brings clarity to those listening, and also clarity to the broader topic we've been discussing is just the cycles repeating themselves, the trauma cycles. And I definitely didn't think about ADHD and autism as being a trauma cycle that continues, and that we have the power to break. When you know better, you do better. And so as you know that the mom who has the child who's having a breakdown in Costco is not because she put Pepsi in the baby bottle. Or it's not because, like it, as a group, when you know better, we do better. And so I'm so glad that you came on today and you shared these insights, because my heart feels fuller having it. And so let's say that someone is home and they're like, yes, I need to talk with her. I need more information. How can folks find you? Where can they find you online or on socials?
You can find me in so many places. I have a very long website, so I'm going to skip that. But if you search up Dr. Kristen Williamson, you'll find me on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn. I have a couple workbooks on Amazon for learning about your spicy brain.
And we'll link all of it for you. We'll make it easy for our neurodivergence. We'll make it easy. We'll put all the
We'll
links
give
in.
the pathway.
Yeah, so we'll put all the links in, but it has been an absolute joy to have you on today, and I'm just so honored to have your story and your history as part of our legacy here for folks to listen to. It started off as something that I thought would be good for like 18-year-olds to listen to, but it has turned into something that is beneficial for everyone, and I'm just so honored to have your story as part of our collection.
Thank you for letting me share it. I always want the world to know that you're okay just as you are, especially when we're growing up feeling not okay. Like we'll get there.